Hello, compliments of the season, and welcome to another edition of Foreign Dispatches. I'm Teniola Uyitayo. On the programme this week, Christmas in the UK hit by mass industrial action as nurses and other unions strike over pay, plus Ukrainian refugees celebrate Christmas across Central Europe as the war lingers. The UK is facing a wave of strikes this winter, with at least one walkout held a day this month, as staff from different industries seek better pay. Labour disputes have led to Christmas Day disruptions, and unions are warning to take further action ahead of the new year unless their demands are met. From transport to health, education to delivery drivers, tens of thousands of workers down tools this Christmas season as recession grips the UK and the cost of living rises. Nurses with the National Health Service this month embarked on the first labour strike in the nursing union's 106-year history.
We're here because this government has turned its back on nursing. And when they turn their back on nursing, they've turned their back on patients and they've turned their back on the NHS.
The NHS, which has provided healthcare free at the point of use since 1948, is now dealing with massive backlogs worsened by COVID issues. As a result, hospital workers are stretched thin.
We have to acknowledge that we're only here because we've been pushed to this. We have been pushed to this occasion right now of being on strike, and there will be further strikes. But we have to acknowledge that we aren't here by choice and that we've not done this on an easy whim.
We try to give the best care to our patients, and safe staffing is really important to be able to do that. Patients are safe. We do as best as we can to keep our patients safe. But we need more staff to come in and help us. We need more staff on the ground to look after the patients day in, day out, night, days, weekends.
I think the Health Secretary needs to honour his commitment to patient safety, and that means patient safety every single day and every single shift. Patient safety is at risk every single day because of short staffing numbers, not just within nursing, but within the ambulance service, within allied healthcare professionals, with our doctors. So this is a wide systemic issue, and the government need to look at how they properly train, fund and retain our staff.
Amid concerns over pay, under pressure health workers aren't sticking around.
I've had to cut down on a lot of things with the kids, which I can't afford to provide for them because of the high cost of living. So it's really, really tough for everyone, not just myself, my colleagues out there. You've got few nurses leaving as well to go and work in supermarkets because they will be paid better. We haven't had a decent pay for over a decade now. Nurses work really hard, not just nurses, the NHS. We're all under pressure at the moment. Everyone's working their heads off. Really, really difficult. So it's not just about clapping for us during the pandemic. I think we need to be respected and appreciated for what we do.
On Wednesday, tens of thousands of ambulance workers, including paramedics and call handlers, also embarked on a strike action, with the NHS warning that public safety cannot be guaranteed. Inflation in the UK has recently reached over 10%, but the government says it can't afford to increase pay for nurses by more than 4 or 5%. The union is demanding 19% and says low pay will create more staff shortages, with public health on the line. The government insists the union's demand is unaffordable.
I call on the trade unions to act responsibly. It is important that we have cover for life-threatening calls and for emergency calls, but it's not just about pay. When I talked to staff, as I was on Sunday evening, the ambulance staff were saying one of the big impacts on their morale is around ambulance handover delays. When I talked to nurses, as I was on Monday, they were talking to me about the importance of the NHS estate and also things like technology, getting the investment in technology to make their working conditions better, because one of their frustrations is often the tech, if the tech is not supporting them in their job. So So there's a range of things that impact on staff and morale. Part of that is getting the right services to patients. We're investing in that. And part of it is looking at the estate, the tech, and the many other things alongside pay.
The pinch is being felt by workers across different industries and public services in the UK. Earlier this week, the Prime Minister urged unions to rethink the strikes. As well as nurses, rail and postal workers, civil servants, airport baggage handlers, customs and border officials are among those taking industrial action this December and in January, calling for better pay and condition. As the days grow cold and dark, many families in Britain are struggling to heat their homes due to rising costs of living. Now, libraries across the country have a plan to help. They're becoming warm banks, which are spaces for people who need a place to keep warm this winter. On her days off, healthcare assistant Mary heads to this library in southeast London, where she spends 2 hours on the computer and keeps herself warm. The 52-year-old is among those in the country who are turning to warm banks, designated spaces where people can go if they cannot afford to turn on their heating at home. The war in Ukraine has pushed natural gas prices up sharply, exacerbating a cost of living crisis in Britain, where inflation rates are among the highest in the developed world. Although Mary works for the National Health Service, her family is in the 4% of Britons who report being behind on their energy bills, according to an ONS survey.
We are not able to pay. So as a matter of fact, last month, we have to call them to defer to this month. And this month, to the way it's going, we just have to ask them. I was even talking to my husband that if we can call them and defer, or they can spread the debt, so we can be paying on top of the normal bills that comes in.
Over the past few weeks, temperatures across the UK have plunged below freezing, and much of the country has been covered in snow and ice. Even though warm banks are providing a refuge for those otherwise trapped in cold homes, library manager Amy Jackson says there's still a stigma attached to using them.
I mean, it's such a shame that warm banks actually have to exist in this day and age, but unfortunately they do, and we just have to be there to support everyone affected by the cost of living crisis. I think a lot of people are kind of unfortunately embarrassed and a bit ashamed to admit that they're struggling sometimes. So, promoting our clubs and our warm spaces as different things really kind of makes them more approachable for them.
Many Britons have also been struggling to afford basic necessities, with the prices of food and non-alcoholic beverages rising at the fastest rate since 1977 in the 12 months to October. Although a number of payments are being handed out by the government to help alleviate some financial pressure, families this year are having to make tough decisions to cut back on Christmas spending. High school students from across the African continent have aired their views at the Johannesburg International Public Speaking Competition. The competition, known as the Johannesburg Summer Holiday Open, comprised of group debates and individual speaking segments. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, has more.
The debate topic was on the importance of prioritizing the establishment of smart cities, while the individual public speaking contestants tackled various topics. Tamara Dao from Tanzania spoke about how the COVID-19 pandemic led her to public speaking, something she never showed interest in.
Now, for the longest time, I was confused. But our school decided that instead of trying to force us not to play these sports, they would try to encourage us to get into other things, such as debate and public speaking. Personally, first thing that came into my mind was no thank you. The AOSDC came, and I wasn't planning on participating. But after a lot of encouragement, I decided that I should give it a try. So I did end up going to the AOSDC, and the second I gave my first public speaking and debating speech, I said, damn, I'm good.
The true meaning of the tree of life, wholeness, be as useful as a tree. So give life to others, give shelter to everyone, and God restore. Be good like a tree, says Mahmoud Ildan. The greatest task that every human is born with is the ability to see good, to do good, and to be good.
The Speaker of the Johannesburg City Council, Councillor Colleen Makubele, congratulated the participants, adding that Africa must look within for empowerment, as there is an abundance of potential leaders with solutions among the young.
I want to encourage you. Your mind is really the biggest resource that Africa has. And I want you to learn to cultivate that. And don't stop becoming that voice. This voice that you're bringing out now, don't be afraid to speak out on any matter, irrespective of which side of the argument you're on. The courage and the boldness to speak out, to use your voice to advance humanity.
At the end of a very long stretch of speaking, Arabile Mapiri, Johannesburg Student Council Mayor, was declared the winner of Public Speaking 2022, while Greenside High School Johannesburg beat St. Thomas High in the debate. There were other winners in various categories for the participants from various countries. We also got to speak to some participants, and they shared some of the highs and lows in the competition.
I'm extremely excited because it's been a tough ride, you always have to work hard to achieve your dreams. And nonetheless, me and my team have worked effortlessly hard with the help of our coaches and everything. Today is a dream come true. Today was just a reward for all of our sacrifices we made.
What I gained from this contest is how important me practicing how to speak, improving my skills, as well as how improving my techniques and how to speak and different aspects of debating and speaking. It showed me a different side of debating, how much actually you have to how much work you need to put in. Yeah.
I think one of the most important things I've learned is what the diversity, what everyone can bring to the table, regardless of your gender or your race or what culture you're bringing to the table. And I've learned to be a bit more appreciative of what everyone has to offer and the uniqueness in every person that I have met so far.
There were a lot of lows, if I'm being honest, because I did both public speaking and debating. So for debating, we took a lot of losses. And then even for public speaking, there were some instances where I didn't really know what to do for that particular topic. So I really had to think long and hard. But I think in the ending, it was all worth it, considering where I'm at right now.
Today, I feel very, very proud to be an African. When I looked at these kids debating, making speeches, thinking through issues, analyzing, bringing critical arguments, it told me that Africa really, we've got resources in the minds of our young people, very bright, very smart, and ready actually to lead.
The Summer Holiday Open is an international debating and public speaking tournament run by the Pan-African Schools Debating Council in partnership with the Johannesburg City Council. The official Speakers' Cup was launched in 2020.
When Foreign Dispatches returns in the spirit of Christmas, we visit Finland for Santa's special message this holiday. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on the program. The Taliban have banned women from universities in Afghanistan, sparking international condemnation and despair among young people in the country. The ban further restricts women's education. Girls have already been excluded from secondary schools since the Taliban returned last year.
Female university students in Afghanistan were turned away from campuses on Wednesday following the Taliban-run administration's decision to bar women. At Kabul University, female students who were hoping to gain entrance say they are worried about their future.
I feel so disappointed when I hear this news. I'm so concerned, thinking that we will have no future and no right to study. This situation is really bad. Education is everyone's right, and no one can take this right away from us.
We urge the international community to support us and negotiate with the Taliban to allow us to continue our studies. Studying is my only passion, and I love to study, so they should please help us.
Prior to the announcement, universities had already been operating under discriminatory rules for women since the Taliban takeover in 2021. There were gender-segregated entrances and classrooms, and female students could only be taught by women professors or old men. Girls have already been excluded from secondary schools since last year. The United Nations and several other countries have condemned the latest ban, which takes Afghanistan back to the Taliban's first period of rule when girls could not receive formal education.
What it is, it's clearly another broken promise from the Taliban. We have seen since their takeover, and also in the past months, just a lessening of the space for women, not only in education, but access to public areas, their non-participation in the public debate. It's another very troubling move, and it's difficult to imagine how a country can develop, can deal with all of the challenges that it has without the active participation of women.
And without fair and impartial justice systems and access to education, there can be no self-reliant, prosperous Afghanistan. Violations of women and girls' rights and freedoms, already the most drastic in the world, have sharply increased. These policies are a systematic attempt to erase women and girls from all spheres of social, economic, political, and public life.
The reality on the ground, more than 1 year after the Taliban takeover, is dire. The Taliban has restricted the enjoyment of human rights by women and girls. This includes their right to education, movement, and peaceful assembly, as well as women's right to work. The United States has repeatedly stated that the legitimacy and support that the Taliban seeks from the international community begins with the legitimacy they earn from the Afghan people through their actions.
The suspension is likely to complicate the Taliban administration's efforts to gain international recognition and to get rid of sanctions that are severely hampering the economy. The Taliban had promised a softer rule after seizing power last year following America's withdrawal from the country. However, the hardline Islamists have continued to roll back women's rights and freedoms in the country.
To the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Ukrainian refugees scattered across Central and Eastern Europe are trying to generate holiday cheer despite worries over making ends meet and fears for relatives back home.
Vasil and Marina fled their village near Kyiv in March with their 2 children after a missile or artillery round exploded near their house. Now living in a 2-room flat in Prague, the family, who could not afford a Christmas tree because they were saving to send gifts to relatives in Ukraine, spent a recent weekend baking Christmas cookies and taping Christmas lights to the wall.
As refugees, we don't have a lot of possibilities, so we had to think whether we could afford to buy a Christmas tree. That is why we decided to just use some pine branches for the decoration so that it looks good and makes the children happy.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine, now in its 10th month, has killed tens of thousands of people, reduced cities to ruins and driven millions from their homes, with 4.5 million registered across Europe, according to the UN Refugee Agency. Many have been put up by states bordering Ukraine, such as Romania, Slovakia and Poland, as well as nearby countries like Bulgaria and the Czech Republic. Poland has registered more than 1.5 million refugees, the most of any European Union nation. Serhii Beresko is a 64-year-old actor who arrived in Poland in March with his mother, wife and 2 children. He says he wants to use this Christmas as a time to thank his Polish hosts.
Everything we have now is thanks to Poland. This holiday is a moment when people look into each other's eyes and thank each other, hoping that things will get better in the future, for the future of our children, for a future without war.
Ukrainians generally celebrate Christmas on January the 7th, but the country's Orthodox Church has said it would allow congregations to also celebrate on December the 25th. Locals around the region are also pitching in to help make the holiday season as normal as possible for the mainly women and children refugees.
We felt like these kids, there's 130 children living here and they're spending their Christmas not at home but at a strange dormitory. So we're just trying to make it a little bit better for them.
As for what Ukrainians want for Christmas, most only have one thing on their list: for the war to end.
And finally on the programme, let's head over to Lapland in Finland. The region's tourism officials claim to be the homeland of Santa. After 2 years of pandemic restrictions, thousands of people from around the world have again made their way to the region to visit Santa and his busy elves. Take a look.
Santa's village on the Arctic Circle is bustling with activity once again. Young and old have travelled from around the world to the city of Rovaniemi in Lapland, which Finland's tourism industry claims is the official hometown of Santa Claus.
I told him that if he can stop the war in Ukraine and Russia, and also help for all people.
It gives you such a feeling that you try to be good, and the people here are all together, and it's really nice to think at this Christmas about peace and about love.
I asked Santa if he could come in Romania and visit me because I really wanted to see him, and I really want to know him.
Santa says his own Christmas wish this year is for people to show love and empathy and to help those in need.
This year I have received letters and messages from all over the world with people wishing that the Christmas would bring peace and happiness throughout the world. Many talk about the importance of sharing and caring about those most meaningful values of Christmas, which never change. This year, my own Christmas wish is for us all, of course, to help those in need, giving great love and empathy. I wish you all peaceful and Merry Christmas.
At this time of year, Santa receives tens of thousands of visits and letters every day from children all over the world.
Mostly children wish love and peace for everybody, but especially for their families, and they wish some little things also for them and also for their friends.
In the darkest days of the pandemic, tourism in Lapland dropped by up to 90%. Just 11,000 came in December 2020, most of which were from Finland.
The nature of Santa tourism this year is definitely all about the recovery of tourism. We're having full winter season, which is more global than ever before. And it seems like we're going to have record-breaking amount of travelers for Christmas and for winter season.
As the world celebrates this year free from COVID restrictions, the Christmas spirit is alive and thriving in the land of Santa.
And that's the programme today. Join us next time for more stories from around the world. I'm Tenyola Oyetayo, wishing you a Merry Christmas.